What project managers and leadership needs to know about value stream management. I am Joshua Barnes, and that is my topic for today. So before I get into the main part of the materials that I'm going to take you through, I want to share a little bit about why I feel these are the things that are very important for project professionals and people in leadership positions to know about value streams and value stream management. It's a big portion of the work, the consulting work that I do. I deliver a fair amount of training in this space. I deliver PMI's Disciplined Agile Value Stream Consultant Workshop. I've got some other options that I'll also cover towards the end of the discussion today. So this is based on my experience. It's based on the experience of other consultants that are at the company that I work for, as well as I'm a board member of the Value Stream Management Consortium. So I get an opportunity to talk with other practitioners, other experts in this space. And that's what I've kind of distilled into all of the content I'm going to take you through starting right now. So there isn't a universally accepted description of what value stream management is. So I want to provide a little context and think about the types of apps or tools that you use on a regular basis, right? So I have tools like I use Miro, a virtual whiteboard, a collaboration platform, pretty much every day. I use an app called GoodNotes. And so I have a lot of ideas of how, as a customer, I would like to see improvements made. So whether we're getting a customer request for an enhancement to a product or an offering that we have, or it's done via a proxy, a product manager, product owner, stakeholder, right? It's where these ideas come from, right? If they would just ask me, right? And to go from the big idea to consumable value, well, it's a path, right? How do we get from that idea and how do we bring that into the workflow and get it to the point where somebody can consume that value? Now, value is something that for each organization we have to define, right? We've got value that can be consumed from an internal or external customer, whether it's somebody that's buying a product from us, it's somebody in a position at the organization that is helping to maintain what those people are buying. It could be an enhancement that keeps us in compliance or mitigates some form of risk. So consumable value, yes, I'm going to kind of focus a bit on what we would see from a customer perspective. But again, there are lots of ways we would define that. So if we look at this sort of this continuum, right? So the first thing is who makes the decision if that big idea is going to be actually, again, implemented, right? That's an investment decision. Is it part of a project, right? And if so, are we using an annual budgeting and funding approach where we get towards the end of the current year and we're making decisions around all the quantities of work, or at least the big quantities of work that we'd be doing for the next year? And if we're sort of in process, we're in January of the new year. So a lot of projects at a lot of organizations are beginning to be initiated, kicked off. And would our big idea be able to be brought into our workflow easily if it's a good thing to do? Or do we have to wait until next year, right? What else is needed? The complexity of our systems these days, or complexity of our systems for quite some time now. A lot of times we're going to need other work to be done to possibly get our big idea out. There might be other minor enhancements in other products that we have, depending on where information is coming from and so forth, as well as do we need marketing for this? Do we need to have something from a operational support perspective ready if we're rolling out something that's significant or rather new or novel? So what else is needed? Who knows we're doing this, right? And who should know that we're doing this? And how long would it take? I mean, there's a whole litany of these types of questions to go from idea to consumable value. So where's the focus? A lot of times the focus is on the delivery team, right? Delivery teams need to do Agile and they need to work harder, right? And we see a lot of times that the perception is that it takes too long to get anything done. And the delivery team is just one part of going from idea to some value that is released that somebody can use, or we've made a release of something and we're learning that, hey, it's just not as effective as we thought, or people aren't buying it, or it's not increasing sales, or customer retention, or all the other things we might have as an objective for doing that work. So now getting into kind of the real heart of what I wanted to focus on today, right? Improving value delivery. So what should we be focusing on? And if you're a project manager, a program manager, a portfolio manager, an operational manager, somebody in a leadership position, right? How do we get the mindset? How do we get you trained and skilled to be working on the things that really are going to matter from an end-to-end flow perspective? So the first thing is accelerate time to market. Now, this is something that is always important. If we look at the past state of agile reports that come out every year, this is always towards the top, right? So accelerating time to market, improving value delivery from a flow perspective is one of the things that we could focus on. Another one is improve strategic alignment at all levels, right? Do teams know how the work that they're doing is contributing to an overarching objective of the organization? Or again, if we're just moving up 1 level, 2 level, 3 level, do we understand what that is? Do we also have people that are saying, this is something important to be done, but it doesn't tie to anything strategic? They just feel it's a good thing, it's an important thing. Again, maybe it's the next big idea, but we need to have this alignment. Increase speed of validation via feedback. Yeah, I mean, no matter what the approach is, but definitely with an agile way of working, right? We want to be able to get validation done very quickly, and we do that through feedback between team members and their product owner, between the product owner and other people in the organization, and then ultimately, right, the speed of the feedback from the marketplace, from our customers. Improve delivery predictability, increase business objective outcomes. Yeah, so I get an opportunity through both the client engagements that I have, as well as a lot of the training that I deliver, to ask questions like, if you've got a quantity of work, a project or a business increment, and you get it completed, right? How do you know what's success? And a lot of times it's, well, we had these requirements, we had a scope of work, we got it done, we released it, and therefore, we were successful with it. But there would have been a decision around doing that work in the first place. Again, is it something that is going to help retain customers, keep us competitive in the marketplace? What's the outcome that we're trying to achieve? Decrease work in process. Yeah, this is another big one. I mean, most teams and in most shared services areas, and most just people within organizations, have a lot of work, which leads to a lot of context switching, right? Multitasking, context switching, right? Which creates delays, which creates work that we, again, from an accelerating time to market perspective, it's going to slow that down, possibly affect quality. Improve visibility. Do we know what people are working on? Are people getting surprised about things? Do we know when something has been blocked or there's an impediment that is being worked to be resolved? Minimize delays and lower risk. Now, minimize delays and lower risk sort of are entangled within the other 7 that are there, but I did think it was important to at least put them up. Now, for all of these items, hopefully you see, I mean, these are all important things, right? Getting something quicker into the marketplace, decreasing the amount of work in process that we have, improving our strategic alignment. But the question is, which are your priority, right? Which are the ones that we can go down to in a little bit more depth to talk about how would you accelerate time to market? What are the strategies? What are the practices or techniques we could potentially be looking at? How could we improve visibility across a value stream? So I'm going to have one of these just as an example, and in subsequent live streams, I'll do this for some of the others. But this is one that, again, is frequently a very high priority, whether we're talking to somebody, and again, in a decision-making capacity in an organization, somebody in a leadership role, or again, things that we can take a look at from surveys. This is pretty big. Now, again, here's a bit of the distinction that we want you as a project professional and again, a manager in a leadership position to understand really well. Is a team level improvement is what we would consider a micro improvement. And that is a very specific quantity of work that would be getting done. But again, if we're going from the big idea that we've got, right, and we have this big idea and we're able to get it into the company that we've got a product of theirs that we're using, all the way through to the point where it's released and we can use it. The bigger items, the things that affect things more at a value stream level, these are what we consider macro improvements, because these are things that are going to be much more significant. So a comparison here, if we increase team performance by 15%, right? Now, yes, we could probably find a team that we could increase their performance by a multiplier, 200%, 400%, I don't know, maybe not 5,000%, right? We'd probably be in a really challenging situation if we were able to do that. But if we were able to increase the team performance by 15%, or we could decrease the size of the scope of our project, or again, however we're identifying that next quantity of work that needs to get done, say by over 50%, which one would have a bigger impact on accelerating time to market? Well, yeah, I mean, if we decrease the scope, right, split the scope in half of a big project, we hopefully would be able to get that done in about half the time. So if we want to get something done quicker, one of the levers that we can pull is to have a smaller batch size. Right? This is one of the biggest enablers that I've seen that is tied to accelerating time to market. Now, there are a number of strategies that are options to be able to do this. The ones that I have up here, right? Minimum business increments, innovation work, which would be our minimum viable products, and then the other classes of service are a way to go from a strategic objective, decompose that down into something at the next level, which might be something like an initiative. And those initiatives typically are going to take quite a bit of time. They're typically pretty big. So instead of looking at something like a project, what we want to be able to do is identify the smallest thing that would provide consumable value. Again, whether that's something that a customer can be interacting with and get value from, or again, something that is going to decrease technical debt, again, minimize risk, keep us in compliance. That's the strategy of a minimum business increment. And when we understand how to do that, well, then we can enable this, business backlog for investment decisions, frequent value flow planning, and frequent funding approval. Right? I didn't say changing maybe something like annual budgeting, but how we make decisions on a more frequent basis around the things we would be doing next. We can typically do that much better if we're using a smaller package of work. Again, the whole idea of the minimum business increment. We can have something like quarterly value flow planning, where we're looking at the work in process, we're looking at the available capacity for that next quarter within the value stream, and what is the most important things balanced with what we can actually do based on that capacity. So how do you learn more? How do you put these things into action? Right. Well, yeah, there's training. Again, there's really good training on some of these strategies in the disciplined agile space. There's training on value stream management, moving from a PMO to VMO. So there's lots of good training that's out there. Coaching, right? Get somebody that's experienced in this and have them help you. And then there's examples, and it's the examples that I'll focus on the most from a enablement perspective. And it's really example-based training. So one of the things that we've been able to do with some of the offerings in this space, and again, all of the lighter blue hexagons that I was covering, accelerate value, improve visibility. Well, those are all things that you would benefit from if you don't understand how to do that with some training. And so we have a example and story-based training, and that's kind of, I know the graphic is really small here, but this is basically lots of stuff on a Miro board. Again, our virtual collaboration platform, the virtual whiteboard, that we're able to train in a very different way. And then that training is combined with an end-to-end example. And that end-to-end example starts with something like our big idea and how that would be connected into a strategic objective, and then further decomposed into initiative, a minimum business increment, or some other class of service, and flow all the way through. And when we get to the implementation flow, all the way to the very far right of what I've got on the screen, I mean, we get down into showing a user or technical story, a test case, test scripts, right, to provide that end-to-end context. And so, as an example, right, the business flow and implementation flow, there's roughly 15,000 elements that are part of that reference example. So you can get into these lower levels of detail from an example perspective. And again, it's an end-to-end example. It's not just something that is randomly changing all the way through. It's to be able to show the connection of how we would put some of these practices in place and evaluate how that would work for you, how that would work for your organization, the culture of your organization, the type of work that you do, and so forth. Another example, just one of the more robust examples of a minimum business increment. This happens to be captured in this example using a business canvas. It shows lots of information, right? Brief description, the products that are involved, the markets that the enhancement that this minimum business increment would be affecting, the feature level requirements, and other supporting information. And so we have lots of varying examples, right? Dozens of examples, to be able to show this in a way that is very different than just, a bunch of PowerPoint slides and something that is very abstract, right? More on the theory versus showing examples that are derived from, consulting engagements. And again, a takeaway for how you would be able to put these things into practice. So again, value stream management for leadership and project managers. This is a course that I occasionally run. This is a lot of the content that's been distilled down into a one-day workshop to provide good context of, again, the factors for improving the flow of value delivery and using an example-based approach. The other thing, and what I'll put in the chat very quickly, just so that there's some reference there. The other thing is that we have what I would consider mini training workshops. And this is just an example of some of the foundational value stream management modules that we have. These things range from 2 hours to 2.5 hours, I think. 3 hours is the biggest on this collection. But these have a very specific focus. Most of them, if not all of them, start off with a gamification. Again, we're going to teach you something through interacting. We'll get into a little bit of courseware. We provide examples, and we also provide templates. We are considering starting to do this from a open enrollment, sort of like the public training, where we'll put it on our learning platform and run some of these workshops throughout the year as well. If that's of any interest to anyone that is either watching this live or on replay, just post a comment or reach out to me directly on LinkedIn or through email. Love to know that if these are things, as you're seeing here, like building in small increments, making the workflow and work visible, identifying delays in the workflow, we'd be happy to start scheduling some of these or talk to you about doing something within your organization. And with that, let me just take a look to see if there are any questions. Oh, so lots of, yes, we got from Atlanta and from New York. Looks like, hi, Roseanne from Indiana. Yes, the session is recorded. It is going to be on both YouTube as well as it'll be available always here, streamed on LinkedIn as well. Good to see from India. And yeah, going forward, any questions, any other things, and just again, post a comment on LinkedIn, and I'll reply as quickly as I can. And I'm going to do some additional live streams on some of those other items, as far as like, improving visibility in the workflow, in upcoming live streams. So thanks for everybody who's in attendance, and I'll see you on the next one.